Please join us Mondays and Saturdays at 2 on WWDB for Investors Schooling Live with real estate and stock options trading professionals Phil Falcone and Larry Steinhaus. This is the show and the school you've been waiting for. Listen to the radio show on WWDB Mondays and Saturdays at 2 p.m. or register for one of our free Thursday night classes at investorschooling.com. Go register at investorschooling.com right now.
Women Heart is in a race to save lives. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women. It's 80% preventable if you know the facts. Millions of women are living with or at risk of different types of heart disease, like AFib, which is a type of irregular heartbeat. It affects both women and men, but women with AFib have a higher risk of stroke and death than men. Get educated. See your doctor. Know the facts. Diet and exercise are key to staying healthy. Know the risks. Women Heart does something really unique, solely focusing on women and providing peer-to-peer support. To win this race, we all have to do it together. Our hearts beat as one. To learn more, visit womenheart.org.
WWDB 860 AM Talk Radio. Follow us on Twitter. Visit us, www.wwdbam.com. This is WWDB 860 AM Talk Radio in Philadelphia, the home of the Liberty Bell, Ben Franklin, Freedom, and Rocky.
I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Make more. Teach. Visit teach.org. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
WWDB Philadelphia, 860 AM.
The opinions and statements expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some.
Good morning, everybody, and what you talking about, Philadelphia? Your weekly wait for infotainment is over. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Find It in Fishtown Live here on WWDB 860 AM. I'm your pilot for the next hour, Marc Colazzo, with the Shirley to my Laverne, Kay Anderson. Good morning, Kay.
Good morning. How you doing?
Oh, it's a beautiful morning thus far in the Fishtown district, which, by the way, sponsors this show. Did you know, Kay, that the fabulous Fishtown district is located just northeast of Center City, Philadelphia? Our active business corridor encompasses world-renowned restaurants, outstanding taverns, boutique hotels, and the unrivaled Fillmore concert venue. But there's more. The area, which includes businesses along Frankfort Avenue, Girard Avenue, and North Front Street, is rich in history and features culinary delights, modern and traditional art, and a vibrant nightlife. And Find It in Fishtown Live. And we are so thrilled to be back, as we are going to have one of our guests today is really one of the movers and shakers of our city. We're lucky to have him as not only a board member of the Fishtown district, but also a council member. And he's really, he's not just an official, he is a partner in all the things that we do. And we look forward to certainly recapping what has been an adventure of a year. And what we hope to see in the weeks and months to come. Anything on your mind, give us a call on the Find It in Fishtown Live hotline, 888-329-3306. That's 888-329-3306. Also, check us out on live stream on Facebook at the Fishtown District. And as always, find out about everything that we're doing at fishtowndistrict.com. Now I'm going to turn it over to the peanut butter to my jelly, who loves to give us an update on everything happening in the corridor in a segment I now will affectionately call Kay's Corner. But I want to give her a kudos because anyone who knows Kay knows that she's a little pepper pot dynamo. Nothing happens without her being involved in it in a good way. And we're pleased that she has been acknowledged. I know it's Women's Month, right?
It is. It is.
And you have been acknowledged as one of the top women leaders in the 175th Legislative District. So Everybody clap out there in your car.
Wow, thanks, Matt.
Look at Matt hooking it up. By the way, I did not qualify for that award, top women in the industry. So congratulations, Kay.
Thank you,
Well
Marc.
deserved. And tell us a little bit about that. I know you're too humble to brag, unlike myself. But tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
Yeah, so I've been working in economic development long before the Fishtown district.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Crazy. I'm
Was
so
there a
young.
time before the Fishtown district?
There was. A long time. A long labor of love created that Fishtown district. But anyway, no, I was working at New Kensington CDC prior to the Fishtown district. Started my career there, and I also joined the board of the Kensington Community Food Co-op, and ended up serving as board president there. And we opened our grocery store, community-owned grocery store, in April of 2019.
And I will tell you, and Kay will acknowledge that I'm not easily impressed, but when I saw the co-op and the work that you did there, it really is amazing. I mean, first off, it's beautiful. The food that you have in there is a very diverse array of things that you can get. People like vegetables. I tend to not like anything green unless it's guacamole. But there's a lot of different healthy options to feed your family. There is a bar in there.
There absolutely is.
So kudos to you. So great work on that. And thanks to our state representative, Mary Isaacson, for pointing out the obvious and giving you this award. And we look forward to really in the Fishtown district, every month is Women's Month.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. With all the women-owned businesses that we have in our district, I mean, women are really killing it over here in Fishtown.
And we urge you, go to thefishtowndistrict.com, find out all the great people there. Come visit, come patronize, come see Kay, come give her a COVID-19 high five, which is sort of the elbow or the air high five.
Yeah.
But Kay, what's new in Kay's Corner today?
Well, so I did want to highlight some of my favorite women-owned businesses here in Fishtown. And I wanted to start with retail because if you're anything like me, you like to go shopping. And we have some of the best women's boutiques over on Frankfort Avenue. I wanted to start with Downers Boutique, which, Marc, I know you probably haven't
Frequented
been.
every day.
Oh, great. Lovely. So you know exactly what it's like.
I have the legs for it.
It's a very clean, chic style, very simple, modern, and elegant, which I really love. They have something in there that could fit almost any woman as far as her style and her vibe. So...
Okay, would you use sheer, modern, and elegant to describe me? Would you use any of those words?
You know what, Marc? I'll give you elegant.
There you go. I'll take it.
So once you're done at Downers, you can head on over to the 1500 block and go to Nas Boutique. So Nas actually has a location down in the south of the United States and one up here as well. So this is their second location. And again, it's very simple, elegant pieces that you can match with almost anything. And
what's great about Nas is we're thrilled to have every business that comes to the corridor. They chose to open in Fishtown during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
In the heart of where the district is. And we're lucky to have them, and we're thrilled that they're thriving. And we love that, and I certainly don't mean to interrupt the many other that you're going to share with us, bringing something new, vibrant, and yes, elegant to the city of Philadelphia.
Absolutely. And the last one on my list that I wanted to highlight is True Diva Designs. So this is a little further up the corridor towards the 2000 block, maybe 2200 block of Frankfort Avenue. But True Diva Designs features kind of formal wear for curvier women. So it has a lot of bedazzling, a lot of flash, but also, curves you in the right places to make sure that you look good when you're going out.
That's awesome. And I think what you're really saying is, Kay, no matter what you want,
you can find it in Fishtown.
There you go. Took the cue. Before we bring on our first guest today, because I know he's got a lot to say, we always like to recap, Kay and I, sort of the news of the week, and certainly certainly there are things now finally happening that we can say make us smile, okay? And Dr. Farley yesterday announced that the city of Philadelphia will be following the state guidelines for indoor and outdoor events, opening up to 15% and 20%. So, I believe Sunday, the first Flyers game, there'll be 3,000 people there. Opening day for the Phillies, which Kay and I can't wait for. We're saving our pennies now.
I was going to say, I'm
to
saving
afford,
up for my ticket.
Yeah. I forgot it's going to be several $100s, so that'll be extra overtime for you and I.
I thought we were just going to use one of your connections, Mark, to get us in there. Oh, my bad. Wasn't supposed to say that on radio.
Yes, exactly. We pay our own way here in the Fishtown district.
Absolutely.
And what to me is so important about that, yes, in the scheme of things, that's not 40, 50, 60,000 people. But what you really see when the announcements were made, and thankfully the city followed along with what the Commonwealth was doing, everybody seemed to have almost like a exhale a little bit.
Yes.
A sigh of relief that maybe we are now moving. We're at the 5-yard line, and hopefully we don't fumble it, as to use a sports term.
Yes. I mean, I think that everybody felt a little bit of hope when those announcements came out, in a way that we really hadn't felt hope in, a year at this point.
And listen, it's certainly not what we want, for Kay and I, who help run a thriving business corridor of restaurants, taverns, retail, professional, you name it. We need more, but obviously we want to do it safely. But this is certainly a step in the right direction. So whereas we're often criticizing what is happening, and of course that's off the air. On the air, we only praise. We can honestly say that yesterday everybody kind of felt good. So we're looking forward to everybody follow all the guidelines, wear your masks, unless you're eating your popcorn. Because let's get to where we need to go so that we have a great summer, fall, and then some. One more thing, and then our guest is waiting in the Find It at Fishtown Live waiting room, Kay, which is known for its vast catering services.
I was going to say, we got great snacks over there.
A VIP service like nothing else. One of the things we're working on, and we have one of the luxuries of being a corridor that continues to grow. With growth means less parking.
Yes.
So, and everybody's booing, but we are proud to take the lead, working with our elected officials, our neighborhood association, and the parking authority, no booing, to try to find ways to not only have turnover for our businesses, because for those that don't know it, you could come to Fishtown and Frankfurt Avenue, Girard, Front Street, leave your car, and 8 months later, come back, and it'll be just fine.
I don't know if we're supposed to advertise that.
Well, good luck getting a parking space. So, and our goal is twofold. We want to make sure that our patrons and visitors that come have a place to park, to go to all the great places that we have. But we also want to make sure what ends up happening is, if you can't find a space on the avenue on Frankfurt or Girard, where do you go? In the neighborhood, and that takes parking away from the residents. So it is a difficult subject. We are prepared to get yelled at. However, know that we are going to come up with a solution that is both practical, doable, and will be helpful. So stay tuned for that. And we're, again, it's a way to make the experience better. But without further ado, Kay, I think we know this next gentleman as not maybe the tannest man in government office. And maybe next to William Penn, there is no better elected official. I'm certainly talking about our beloved City Councilman, Marc Squilla. Good morning, Marc.
Good morning, Mark. How are you? And Kay, thank you for having me.
No, thanks for being here today. Thanks for getting up bright and early with us. And I wish I could say to you that there's really nothing going on in the city of Philadelphia, but that's not quite the case. Marc, from an elected... Go ahead.
I heard what you were saying earlier, and I do believe that the people are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is great, because there's been so much anxiety and mental health issues that have been going on in the city dealing with the pandemic. It has affected everybody throughout the city, whether you're a young child dealing with daycare or school, or whether you're an older senior living with the fear of catching the coronavirus. So this has affected everybody in our city. And now, hopefully, with the mass vaccination site opening today, hopefully 6,000 doses a day will be administered. This is a great start to getting our herd immunity. And as you also mentioned, some of the new changes in the operational rules from the health department to have businesses go back. We still want people to go back safely, obviously. Wear your mask and still do social distancing, but knowing that this will help people, their mental outlook on things, knowing that hopefully the end is near.
And Councilman, there's certainly no playbook for what we all and you all in city government have gone through. I know that we probably don't have enough time for this answer, but what's it been like since really last March? It's a year ago that we have been living in this new world. What's it been like from a legislative point of view, from a constituent service point of view?
Well, it's been a big adjustment. It's been a big adjustment not only for the elected officials, though, but for the constituents who we represent, from not being able to go physically to community meetings, to dealing with zoning issues within the neighborhood, also with people not really at their offices working from home, the difficulty of that. But I also look at it as opportunities. I see it as a chance to grow our city in a way that we can now do things better. And now when we get back to some type of normality, we'll have options so that we can better engage our communities. And it won't be just through a simple community meeting, and there'll be other opportunities for people to engage their elected officials because of what we learned through this pandemic. So it has been a challenge. I'm not going to lie. Like I mentioned earlier, just from the emails we received, how anxious a lot of our constituents are and the concerns they are. Also, I think is some of the ways that we dealt with things and the confusion around, and having different rules from the state, and how we as a city are prepared to handle such challenges. But as government, we learned through this. This hasn't been done for over 100 years, and 1918 was the last real pandemic that people had dealt with. So there was no playbook. Whether you were 80 years old or whether you were 20 years old, nobody was around to deal with the last one. So it's been a challenge, but it's also been exciting in that people are thinking outside the box, coming up with new ideas. Even some of our businesses who have been decimated by this pandemic have also came up with ideas of how to improve their business, and hopefully that'll carry into when they do open up into some type of normality, that they will also be able to add these features to their business and hopefully help their bottom line.
Absolutely. And certainly we tell everybody, Kay, all the time, like, we're very lucky, and I'm not just saying this because you're talking to us right now, Marc. You are a true partner. Your response is always, how can I help? And I know it's always difficult now because, listen, I remember before the pandemic and how well the city was doing economically, business-wise, and how this pandemic has really put a drain, not just on small businesses, but on government spending. Mm-hmm. As we move forward now, we have a new budget. What are some of the challenges that you face and that City Council faces in passing that?
Well, obviously, during the shutdown, our tax revenues and revenues into the city are a lot less. We're looking at a $450 million deficit. But the reason why the mayor has postponed his budget address is because of the possible stimulus coming out of Washington. It's important to know that stimulus included money directly to the states and municipalities. And if that happens, that'll make it a little easier, depending on the amount of dollars, obviously, that comes to our city. We could adjust our budget in a way that may not be as devastating as once thought. So the delay in that, usually our budget address is right around now. It's usually right the first week of March, but it's going to be pushed back for a month, and then hopefully we'll get a good idea of how the stimulus coming out of Washington, D.C. will affect us as a municipality. So we don't know all the ramifications yet. We do know if we have to address the issues right now, there will be cuts in every department. If there was no additional dollars coming in. And when you do that, there's programs that have to be looked at. Every department has to go and tighten their belts. And, it's a challenging time. And so the better we get vaccines out there, the better we get people back into their office jobs and back into school and back into work. The restaurants opening up a little bit more. That would help our bottom line. But again, we got to make sure we do it safely, right? We have to make sure that we're still paying attention to whatever the guidelines are, and be ready to adapt. If there are challenges out there, if there's something that we need to do to make things more safe, then we have to be able to do that. And I got to say that the business community has been unbelievable in coming up with ideas. I mean, as a city and as a government, government makes a lot of these rules and administration dictates what you can and cannot do. But what I've seen through this pandemic is groups of businesses, whether it's the restaurant industry, whether it's the gyms, whether it's the catering halls, whether it's the sports teams, working together to give their information to the city and saying, this is what we could do to be safe. And that has been really unprecedented. And, not that everybody got everything they wanted, but it does make government change their mindset, saying, all right, well, maybe we thought it couldn't be safe, but now after hearing this, we think you could do it safely. So that has been great. And then to build that dialogue and hopefully continue that dialogue even after pandemic, I think will help the city grow even more.
Marc, can you hang with us for a few minutes? We have to pay a few bills, so we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to be back with Find It in Fishtown Live in 2 and 2.
Happy to stay on.
Yeah, stay on, Marc. We'll be right back, everybody.
It's been part of Philly for over 10 years, so Rivers Casino Philadelphia knows how you like to play. With better odds, more playtime, an upgraded rewards program, plus a state-of-the-art sports book, great restaurants, and more. Everything that real players want, without the overpriced distractions. Rivers Casino Philadelphia is for those who play to win, not play to pay for some fancy new place. Rivers Casino Philadelphia, always on our game. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Just because you can't see lead paint doesn't mean it's not on your walls, doors, windows, or sills. Today, lead paint poisoning affects over 1 million children. What's more, just 3 granules of lead dust from old paint can poison your child. If your house was built before 1978 and you have kids 6 years old or younger or are pregnant, it's very important to know what to do. There are simple steps you can take to make your kids lead-free kids. Log on to leadfreekids.org or call 800-424-LEAD for more information. A message from the Coalition to End Childhood Lead Poisoning, the EPA, HUD, and the Ad Council.
This is a public service announcement test from TakeMeFishing.org to determine if you need a fishing license and boat registration before heading out on the water. Let's begin. Are you a bear? Do you have a beak? Does your name rhyme with Ald Beagle? Do you dart in front of cars? Here's a tough one. Do you have plumage? Do you rub your body against things to mark them? Do you have webbed feet? No, I mean like a... Were you hatched? Do you have fur? I'm not talking back hair. Does your boat fly south for the winter with the other boats? Regardless of how you answered, you need to be licensed and registered because it helps local conservation efforts protect the very natural resources you enjoy boating and fishing in for generations to come. Do your part at TakeMeFishing.org.
Welcome back, everybody. Boy, the time is just zooming when you're informing and entertaining, Kay. You're listening to Find It in Fishtown Live on 860 WWDB AM. We've been talking with our 1st District City Councilman, Marc Squilla. But again, if you have any questions for Marc or me or Kay, give us a call at 888-329-3306. That's 888-329-3306. Also, watch our live stream on Facebook at the Fishtown District and check out all the great things that we're doing and all the great things that are happening in the Fishtown, Kensington communities at fishtowndistrict.com. Before we get back to Marc, I just want to say, Kay, that every time I hear one of our commercials, and by the way, kudos to the Rivers Casino. That commercial came out great. Wonderful sponsor of Fishtown and Find It at Fishtown Live. But then we have the fishing one, where I have to be honest, I've never heard a commercial that said, do you rub up against anyone to mark your territory? I want to ask that to our next guest. Marc D., do you ever do that?
Fishing?
Yes, Marc.
Yes.
Do you go fishing?
See, Marc can always class up the place when I'm trying to make a joke. But
well, it depends on what term of. I mean, what do you mean by fishing? I mean,
I didn't know.
The actual sport of fishing, or
let's go with the sport of fishing. Did you hear the? I urge everyone, besides listening to every word that Kay and I and Marc say, is listen to the commercials, because every week we get a new one, and this was a fishing one, Marc, that asked if you have web feet. Do you rub up against things to mark your territory? And I have to be honest, those are great questions for our guests each and every week. So
I was going to say, we might need to ask those when you go on your next date.
Yes. That might be a while, okay. But we're being joined by 1st District Councilman Marc Squilla. Marc, before Kate, I know, is all teed up and has some questions for you, what compromises the 1st Councilmanic District in the city of Philadelphia?
Basically, our boundaries go from lower South Philadelphia, east of Broad Street, so from Broad to the river, all the way up through Center City. And then it includes Chinatown area, goes east along Spring Garden Street, then goes up into Northern Liberties from 3rd Street up over to Brown, over Brown to 2nd, up 2nd to Girard, which then includes Northern Liberties and Fishtown area, so it takes into Girard. Then goes all the way over to the river, down by where Sugar House is, up Delaware Avenue to across Norris Street, back over. Includes Kensington area, Port Richmond, and Harrogate, up Kensington Avenue, all the way up to the Frankfort Creek. So it's a very diverse district, difference as far as people and ethnicity, and also differences as far as socioeconomics. So it's a very, very good district, and it's filled with wonderful people who really care and participate in the political process.
And certainly we won't share, Marc, that obviously the Fishtown district is your favorite part of that. But you know, one thing I can say is you're attentive to everyone. So, Kay, I know you're all geared up. Fire away.
Yeah, so right before the break, we were talking about the budget. And one of the things that I was curious about is we're talking about trying to balance the budget, but at the same time, adding all of these new programs and policies and the need for economic recovery for our city. How do you as council members prioritize those two opposing ideas while going through these budget negotiations?
Yes, first of all, the budget is proposed by the mayor's office. We really don't have, we think we have influence in their initial generation of the budget, but that we really find out a lot of it the day before it's announced. So we really don't know much of what the priorities will be, but then it's us to react to that budget and work together with our colleagues to come up with how we massage that to hopefully benefit the interest of the people we represent the most. And, whether it's adding a new program or whether it's looking at existing cuts that were made by the administration in an existing department or a program that we support strongly. So our process of budgeting is more reactionary as a council, more so than the administration. I know a lot of people run to us after the budget's announced and say, our department, we need more resources. We can't believe our budget was cut. Or it's something like we had last year where, we were big supporters and proponents of street cleaning, and that ended up being cut out of the budget last year, and hopefully that would be added back in. I mean, they would be priorities for us moving forward, and we could send them over to the administration, but we really don't have much influence in the initial announcement of the budget until it is announced, and then we go back and forth to try to change. And the ability us to change a lot is not that good. It's we can make minimal changes, add a couple dollars here or there, or move a couple dollars by negotiating with the administration. And then usually by the end of the session, we have a budget in place that we could at least get 9 members of council to support so that budget could move forward. But there's always tension once the budget is released because certain things, whether it's a real estate tax increase or something else that really, tweaks council a certain way, you start seeing people fire back at that. We're not going to support this type of budget. So that's the way it basically works. And one thing I did want to add about Fishtown was their always willingness to help too, because during this pandemic, there was businesses in the area, mainly like the Fillmore and a bunch of others, who had stepped up and allowed their facilities to be used not only for testing, also to offer them for vaccines. And this is what a true neighborhood business really means to us here in the city of Philadelphia, where they're not only there during the good times, but even during the bad times, willing to step in and help when they're not even making any money. So that speaks a lot for Fishtown. It speaks a lot for the district and the bid, and a lot for the leadership that's going on. So we appreciate what you guys are doing, and we'll continue to help and support as you work toward getting everybody back open, and also supporting the surrounding community that's impacted by the businesses there. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I think one of that's a great point. And listen, Kay and I are always just amazed of, no matter what's going on, no matter the strife, no matter the economic struggles that our businesses face, is they step up for each other. And we've seen it all during the pandemic where, restaurants were donating meals to first responders. We ran a program encouraging people to buy meals to send to local law enforcement, the Temple University COVID unit. Even now, Lutheran Settlement House is doing a program where our local restaurants are donating meals. We could go on, and I think it's really a testament, and we know it goes on all over the place, but we're going to brag on our people for a little bit. It is gratifying to see. I know it energizes us, and it really pushes us harder. Like, I always say when, and Marc has been great whenever we've asked him to help to connect to anyone, that, we love to pat ourselves a bit when there's success, but we take ownership when there's a problem. And we're moved more by those to try to correct those. And Marc, you made a good point about the budget. In my prior life, Kay, I was a staffer in city council, and people don't realize that once the budget's announced, then the city council folks like Marc have to sit through days upon weeks upon months of budget hearings.
Yes.
Where the different departments come in to basically not beg for money. Advocate for their share of the pie. Marc, that's got to be so difficult because they're all do such great things and they're necessary things, but it is a lot to go through. And I think people don't realize that, it's not just about picking a number. There's certain deficit things we have to keep in mind, and there are a multitude of departments that have to be heard. How do you focus in with all of that going on?
Well, what you have to do is prioritize the most important things, because as the administration will tell us, when we advocate for a department to get additional dollars, or whether we advocate for street cleaning or some other program that's new or a new initiative, they always say, okay, we'll do that. Who are you taking money away from? All right. So are you going to take money away from the sanitation department? Or are you taking money away from mural arts? Are you taking money away from the arts? Where are you taking it from? And then we'll give it to them. And, most of these departments already have been cut. So the decision of where that extra dollar and where those extra dollars come from is difficult. So it ends up playing one against the other there. So we have to be strategic in how we do it. What we try to do is build a coalition of people who have similar requests, because honestly, the more people who support a certain initiative, the chances of them getting either added to the program or additional dollars added are more likely. So it's a challenge, because it's not only what you want, it's like what council in the whole or in general wants. And that's really the toughest job, is to wrangle that all in by the council president, because he has to be able to talk to every council member. We give them like a wish list of things that we want. He's got to try to massage that and give it to the administration, and then administration whittles it down even further to see what they may be able to do as far as changing the budget to appease some of the council members. Because the goal is the budget has to pass. You need 9 votes. So we never get everything we want. If we get one thing, we're lucky. that we advocate for. But it's still a process because we get an opportunity to the general public to hear the concerns through the budget hearings. And, before most of them, they are covered on Channel 64 and Comcast. But now you could even log into our meetings and watch them there. So, there is opportunity to hear, what the concerns are and how the budget process works. But it's very tedious, and changing the budget is very difficult. So it's interesting. I remember the first year coming in, it was like, how do we go through every budget for every department and try to understand it? And then I think what I realized is let's focus on the ones we're really prioritizing and then go with them. And so that's what I do. Other members of councils may do it differently, but that's my focus.
And so, Marc, I know you don't get to propose the budget, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, but what are some of the things that you and your office are specifically advocating for or want to see included in this budget?
Well, we advocate very strongly for the arts. We believe, I'm a board member of the Cultural Fund. We believe that the city is growing through the relationship with our arts and cultural organizations. That these are money that goes into supply grants for these organizations. These grants are mainly operational dollars, which are always hard to come by.
Absolutely.
And the small amount of money that they get enables them to stay productive in the city of Philadelphia, which really increases our economic impact and drives our tax revenue. So the investment into those organizations, I always believe, are important in that I think they have a great return, not only financially, but also for the well-being of the people and the community that surrounds where these organizations are. So that's always a big push for me. I'm also a big advocate for street cleaning. Every year I've been pushing for dollars into the budget. We finally got it last year, and then the pandemic hit. Been doing it since 2012, and it felt good to finally get it in there. I believe street cleaning and lighting are parts of safety. Public safety is very important to the people in my district. We get calls every day about that. And street cleaning, I believe, is a big part of that. So hopefully we'll be advocating for that again this year. We see the challenges knowing our shortfall. So we know that there's probably going to be cuts in departments all across. But I'm really glad to see that the administration is not jumping to a budget with the immediate numbers that we see, not knowing what amounts we're getting from the federal government. So, I think that'll help us. The only problem is that give us a little shorter roll on our hearing process, and will be a little tweaked for time to come up with adjustments to this budget. So there's a good side and a bad side to it. But, our priorities, every council person has different priorities. But I believe that at least moving forward, we need to look at those two things. You can't have 20 priorities. You have to narrow them down. And of course, we support, dollar money for education and, money for our sanitation and first responders and things like that. So it's always a challenge, but, we try to weigh them and do the best we can.
And Marc, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't give you kudos again, because you mentioned corridor cleaning and street cleaning, and we were fortunate enough, the Fishtown district, to receive an award of $75,000 per year to go towards corridor cleaning, and that is in no short measure to your hard work. So thank you, because we know how busy it gets. We know we have thousands upon thousands of people that come through every day. We have a major transportation hub at Front and Girard, and it is difficult to keep that clean. And through your hard work and advocacy, we were able to get that. So thank you. So for people out there that are listening, know that our district council people can make a difference in those types of ways. I'm sorry, Kay, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow there. You were killing it.
No, but before we move on from council members helping us, I wanted to also point out that we can also help our council members and our city when it comes to this budget crisis.
How?
There's conversations going on in the federal level and the state level as far as these allocation of funds that Councilman Squilla was just talking about. these relief packages. So if you can call your federal representatives and make sure that those things are included in that bill and that bill gets passed through Congress, that will do a lot to help out our city as a whole.
Absolutely. Marc, can you hang with us through one more commercial?
Sure, absolutely.
I want you to pay close attention because you're going to learn a lot during the commercials.
Well, I know I don't have web feet, and I don't rub up against anybody.
Let that be the headline.
We'll see what I do.
Let that be the headline. Councilman Squilla does not have web feet. Again, you don't get this information from anywhere but this show. We will be right back in 2 and 2.
It's been part of Philly for over 10 years, so Rivers Casino Philadelphia knows how you like to play. With better odds, more playtime, an upgraded rewards program, plus a state-of-the-art sports book, great restaurants, and more. Everything that real players want, without the overpriced distractions. Rivers Casino Philadelphia is for those who play to win, not play to pay for some fancy new place. Rivers Casino Philadelphia, always on our game. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The police called after midnight when they caught our son at a drinking party. It was a real wake-up call. A policeman suggested we try Al-Anon family groups. I didn't want to go to a meeting, but I'm glad I did. Are you troubled by someone else's drinking? You might be surprised at what you could learn in an Al-Anon family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
Women Heart is in a race to save lives. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women. It's 80% preventable if you know the facts. Millions of women are living with or at risk of different types of heart disease, like AFib, which is a type of irregular heartbeat. It affects both women and men, but women with AFib have a higher risk of stroke and death than men. Get educated. See your doctor. Know the facts. Diet and exercise are key to staying healthy. Know the risks. Women Heart does something really unique, solely focusing on women and providing peer-to-peer support. To win this race, we all have to do it together. Our hearts beat as one. To learn more, visit womenheart.org.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the last segment of the greatest radio show in the history of mankind. Find it in Fishtown Live. I'm Marc Colazzo with the... Give me a condiment that goes with something else, Kay.
Oh,
I went
ketchup
blank.
to your mustard?
I was going to say Squiggy to my Lenny, again, using old references.
He loves those old references that I never get.
I do, because I'm old. Again, we're so thrilled to have you with us today. Please check us out as the show is brought to you by the fabulous Fishtown District at fishtowndistrict.com. We're also live streaming this beautiful broadcast at the Fishtown District on Facebook. And certainly give us a call. Tell us what's on your mind at 888-329-3306. That's 888-329-3306. And we're currently talking to 1st District Councilman and really equivalent to Ben Franklin, Marc Squilla. Marc, you have been in. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Hope you learned some more stuff during the commercials. You never know what you're going to hear on WWDB.
Did I learn anything new? Rivers Casino.
That's right. We love Rivers. They're a big sponsor.
I got to say, a great partner too. And, they were always there to help sponsor events in the community in and around the city of Philadelphia. So we appreciate those partners and looking forward to continuing that long-standing relationship.
Marc, I can only tell you the show has been a hit. I'm getting text after text simply saying, more Marc Squilla. More Marc Squilla. So thank you. But let's go back a little bit. You've been in office since 2011. One of the main reasons why we wanted to do this show is the things that make our corridor great really are the people. And the stories of how people got from point A to where they're actively involved in our community, because that's really the inspiring things. Tell us a little bit about your background. What kind of about your background wanted to got you to run for office?
Yeah, I would say I was never really looking to get into political office. My background, my degrees in computer science. I was a programmer for 25 years. Worked for the Department of the Auditor General. Was involved with writing programs to get the audits done in the field. My first 2 years, I did work in Harrisburg programming. We didn't really have what they call portable computers at the time. I know it sounds like ages ago, but most of the audits were done by hand. So my background was to come up with programs to allow people to do these audits in the field with computers. And we would go around the Commonwealth training people. And if you remember back at that time, I mean, most of the people working through the state, were maybe 50, 60 years old, and computers were so new, they didn't even know how to turn them on. It's not like today where people grow up with them, but, it was very scary times for folks who've been working, doing something have they been used to doing for a long time, the same way over and over again. And now we're trying to change that mindset. So that was a challenge for me. I end up, not only writing the programs, but then helping to teach and work the people through using the computers itself, how to use the computers, then learning how to use the program. So it was very interesting times. And maybe that led me to, being able to try to help people in the community. I was very active in a local playground. I had 4 young kids at the time, and the playground was open 24 hours. It was all concreted. The kids would drink in there, and there was always problems. And so we got a group of neighbors together and formed a friends group of the playground and started running programs there and hounding our elected officials to try to help us fix some of the problems that were there in the playground. And at that point, it was Councilmember DeCicco. And, for the first couple of years, it's always like an elected official, all right, we'll help you. And, but we really weren't getting anywhere. And so what I decided to do was actually run for committee person. I ran for committee person. There were committee people there already, but got involved and figured if I get people to vote more and get them to pay attention to what's going on around us, we could get some more influence with our elected officials. At that time, the state rep was Representative Keller, who had given us a DCED grant to help us do some of the programming. So I said, all right, this could be really interesting. And I ran for committee person and was successful, really got involved with getting people out to vote. And then one time we were at a meeting, a women council meeting down in South Philadelphia. It was an RCO down there. And Councilman DeCicco had said that, we see a lot of involvement here. We see the numbers are really getting high with turnout and stuff. What do you guys really need? And I said, we've been asking for or help remodel our playground for the last 4 years. Maybe we could look into that. And so over time that got done. They spent close to $800,000 at the time, which was a lot of money, and redid a hockey rink and basketball courts and took some of the concrete out and put some trees and planters in there, benches and some play equipment. And I sort of got hooked. I sort of liked it, the opportunity to help people, see that we could make, people be proud of their communities and where they live. And so I ended up running for president of Whitman Council at that point and became president of the organization. And then when Councilmember DeCicco was getting ready to leave office, there were several people running, and all we wanted to do was, say, who should we support? Who's good to work with out of these guys? Who do you really like? And he was saying, well, I don't think any of them, will fit the mold, be able to take care of the whole district, And so we started actually asking people, who do you think we should run for this office? And there was really nobody interested. And I jokingly said at one of our meetings, I'll do it if nobody wants to do it. And I wasn't really serious at the time. And DeCicco had turned around and said, well, if you really want to do it, I'll support you, because I think you're doing it for the right reasons. And coming from a community activist standpoint, I think you would be good for the district. And then we went and talked with some of the other ward leaders, and it was hard to gain support. I wasn't known mainly just in my little area, South Philadelphia, which was Whitman Council, not known in even some of the other areas of South Philadelphia. And so it was a challenge to get your name out there, get around and start really going to see the district, which was a lot bigger than I anticipated. So we ran against 3 other folks that were running that time, and I was fortunate enough to win the race. And I really do like the job. I really appreciate that the constituents give me the opportunity to represent them. I try to do that the best I can. It's not always easy. You never make everybody happy, and you don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everyone. And so what we try to do is be a good listener, listening to both sides of every concern, whether it's a development concern or whether it's just a neighborhood crime issue concern. Let's listen to those concerns and see how we can address them the best we can. And I think sometimes my computer science background comes in handy, because when you write a program, your goal is to find out what is the outcome that you want. So you find your outcome first, and then you write a program to then get to that outcome. So I do my politics similarly, like where do we want to be in 5 years and where do we want to be in 10 years or 20 years? Instead of saying, what do I need to do just to get past today so nobody's mad at me? And sometimes that ruffles feathers because we look at the big picture, and sometimes change doesn't happen fast enough for some folks, and sometimes change happens too fast for other folks. So, but I think the goal is if people know you're listening to both sides and you're coming up with what their input is and including that into your decision, they may not like the final decision, but I think they respect it, and they know that you just didn't blow them off, that you were sincere enough to listen and add what their concerns and ideas were into that final decision.
Absolutely. And Marc, one of the things that I want to commend you on is how responsive you are as a council member. I say this all the time across the city. You really do make legislation and politics actually accessible to your constituents and to your committee members. I know firsthand that I can send you an email about a problem that we're having in Fishtown, and you respond within 24 hours most of the time. And that's really difficult with as big of a district as you have, as many constituents as you had. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
I join in that, Marc.
Well, thank you, Marc and Kay, because when I first got into office, coming from a community advocate standpoint, the worst possible thing is not to get an answer. Mm-hmm. And when I first had a meeting with my staff was, listen, it can seem trivial to you because we deal with so many things, and somebody might say, all right, I have this trash that was dumped in front of my house, and that's a big deal. It's driving me crazy. And the next person calls and says, I had a shooting on my corner and a person was killed. But to both those issues, there are serious concerns to both those people. So we have to address both of them in the same manner. And I think that, that has been something that I really cared about coming in, and we try to carry that through continuously because, again, the answer is not always the answer that you want, but you know that you're getting an answer that we do hear you, we do understand what your concern is, and that, sometimes we don't have an answer right away because we have to look into a concern and try to figure out a resolution or a solution. But it is something that, constituent service is very important to us. Policy and legislation is also very important, but we know that, especially during these trying times, especially now with vaccines and people trying to get access and all those things, it's really important for us to make sure that, we answer those and try to calm the fears down. And it's getting a little easier now, seeing that the light is coming. We're getting more vaccine. The FEMA vaccine is actually addition to our vaccines that we already have, and we're pushing to have these pop-up sites in every area of the city of Philadelphia. So hopefully we'll be able to get them in a couple more areas, or a couple areas in my district to begin with, and get people vaccinated. Because I think once we get that herd immunity into the city of Philadelphia, I think you'll start to see a more relaxing of tension in the communities and in the businesses, and getting back to people helping people and making Philadelphia what it is, which is probably one of the best cities in the country.
And Marc, as someone that, like myself, who worked in both state and city government, let's go back to Mr. Squilla goes to city council. How did it compare what you thought it would be to what it is?
I'll tell you, I thought things got done a lot faster. When I first came in, I was saying, you know what, I think maybe 2 terms, you have the term limits of 2 terms, because 8 years is a lot of time to be in there, and we should allow new people. Now I changed it to 3 or 4 terms because everything takes so long to get done. We worked on the cap since I got in 2012. We worked on that cap covering over Delaware Avenue down to the river since then. it is not getting started till next year. So now this is my third term. And some of these things take a really long time. And I think the thing that bothers me most is some of the bureaucracy involved in the things that we do, whether it's permitting or L&I, how we get things done, whether it's through streets department and trying to find a niche to get people. Our job is how do we get people to comply, right? So we go there and we said, all right, well, they did this, they did everything they had to, but this is a problem. And so it's the frustrating part is how long things take. And if anything I could change, I would try to make government a little more adaptive, understand we need checks and balances. We don't just want to go willy-nilly. I have an idea and shove it through without any input. We need, public input and public hearings on these things. But I think it needs to be a lot smoother without so many bureaucratic turns and, decisions made that, legally you can't do this or you can do this, but you've got to do it a different way. So the biggest adjustment I had is how long it really takes to get something done from start to finish. When we first even did our $15 an hour bill in council, we went through and we had all the meetings and we thought we were done. And then we have to meet with the administration. You have to get them on board. And then, it was only for Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, and people who contracted with the city of Philadelphia. So it didn't include like regular local businesses. But my idea of doing that was, if we want other people to raise the minimum wage or we want other people to pay people more, we have to lead by example. We have to show that, yes, we could do it. It didn't end, didn't shut down the city of Philadelphia. And what it did do is add compression. People who were making 15 had to make a little more. We had to see what that cost was. And then we had to understand how fast we roll from where we were to get to 15. So you can't go in 1 year. People wanted us to do it in 1 year, go from, $7.50 to $15 an hour or $10 to $15 an hour. So we did a gradual term over 4 years. So, some of these things take time to work out. And that is probably the hardest lesson I had. I still have a hard time with it. But I guess I'll continue to have a hard time until I leave.
Marc, in the last minute, and again, the time has flown, what are you most proud of all that you've done a lot? What are you most proud of in your time in city council?
I want to say the initial push that we had was fighting the institution of AVI, and not because AVI, Actual Value Initiative, was not a good policy. It was just that the city was not prepared at the time to go to that. Now, I end up losing that at the end. We did delay it for 1 year. I end up losing that at the end, and the Actual Value Initiative passed. But it still is a problem today. And in pointing out, I think, the challenges of AVI when you're not prepared and how it impacts the residents, because what it does by having these increases in assessments every year, it's basically increase in taxes without any input from the General Assembly. We don't get to decide assessments. We don't get to vote on assessments. And therefore, it's a challenge. I wanted to see more checks and balances on there. I wanted to see that the people are aware of when their taxes would be increased, how the safeguards in place that we needed. But what we did was we put a couple things in: long-term owner-occupant loop, which was a subsidy that we put in for people who were in gentrifying areas, whose increase in assessment skyrocketed and therefore would be taxed out of their homes. Obviously, the senior freeze is a big thing. Homestead is also something that we were proud of, to put some of these safeguards in place, because we know that as these assessments increase, we don't want people priced out of their homes. They should be able to choose whether to stay in their homes or to leave on their own. And we believe by having no safeguards that we would be doing that through this AVI process. So I think putting those safeguards in, seeing the challenges ahead of time, being able to know that, it's still not a clean process. There's still challenges that people who fall through the loops, that sometimes, their assessments are raised to a point where they can't afford them. The UPA plan, where they go on a payment plan, is something we're proud of also, where they could stay in their home as long as they want until they decide to sell it or transfer that property. So, the goal was to keep people in their homes, as the people who lived here for a long time and shouldn't be able to be moved out.
And Mark, I don't mean to interrupt you because we could go on and on, but they're literally
$15 an hour thing. That was another proud moment for me to be able to get that through council was very important.
Thank you. So, Councilmember Squilla, thanks for all you do. Thanks for joining us today. And we look forward to our continued partnership. It's sunny outside. Go get that instant tan of yours.
And one final question for you. Where's your favorite place to go in Fishtown?
I'm going to say, you know what? You put somebody on the spot when you say your favorite place because somebody's always going to say, well, why didn't you pick our location? So
got to pick one.
Say, and maybe because it's one of the oldest ones and it's an activity that I like and also has great food and drinks. And I think North Pole is one of my favorite spots. And but for venues, I would say the Fillmore is a great spot.
And with that,
go see a show.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us on Finding the Fishtown Live. Thank you, Kay. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week.
Take care. See you all.